Hey guys, Morgan's Maintenance. Today's video is going to be a tool haul video. That's where I share several things that I picked up here recently, kind of talk about the main features of them, how I use them, how much they cost, those kinds of things like that. And three of these I picked up particularly for a baseboard job that I currently have going on. So I shot some footage using these. I'll explain how I use these three. And then the other two, one of them is something that I made a post about and asked if anybody had any feedback. I went ahead and pulled the trigger and bought those. So I'm going to share kind of my first experience with them, what I think about them so far, and then something else is something that I saw on a trade show type video. So going to dive into these. Again, I'll explain to you why I bought them, where I bought them, those kinds of things like that. But let's go ahead and jump into these tools. So one of the first things that I picked up here recently are these bucket grips. I saw these on several different of those trade show videos where people go to like the builder shows and things like that, go around to the booths. These were something that I kept seeing, decided I'd go ahead and pick up a pair. These run you 10 bucks. I think I ordered mine from Home Depot. They might be available on Amazon and Lowe's as well. Again, they are the bucket grips made in the USA. We go around to the back here. It says that you can attach grips one at a time by hooking them onto your 2, 3, or 5 gallon bucket. I'll see if I can kind of get the whole thing in the picture. I don't know if you'll be able to zoom in and read any of that or not. It's kind of a little bit dark on the screen and stuff like that. So again, out of the package, I've had these out. I just put them back in the package so that you guys could see the packaging. They are essentially, again, 2 handles. You have 2 little things right here that go up under the lip of a bucket. And that's where I kind of was a little bit down on this, because essentially you have to use a certain kind of bucket. They have to have a lip like this right here that you can take and put those in. And then whenever you push up on those, they'll slide up in there. Hopefully you can kind of see that. And they don't really, lock into place real crazy or anything like that. You could easily come over here and bump that right out. So you kind of need that upward pressure of having some weight in your bucket. And it says to make sure that you put them directly across from each other. So you could put 2 inside of this bucket right here. And then again, it kind of gives you a handle to be able to carry something like this, because sometimes one of these type of handles, if you've got very much weight in this bucket right here, you know that this will eat your fingers alive. So if you've got buckets like this Harbor Freight one here, Lowe's buckets, Home Depot buckets, all those, these bucket grips are going to work with that. But I bought these specifically with my drywall buckets in mind. You can see here that the green top USG and also the dust control, they don't have lips like this on it. So these won't work on those. So you can't really use them for that. You pretty much have to use them on Harbor Freight, Lowe's, Home Depot buckets, probably what you would call a standard bucket, I'm sure. So they made these to fit probably the most common ones. But again, they're not going to work with every bucket. So don't buy them thinking that it will. And they also come off, super easy. I don't know if that's a good thing, a bad thing. I would like to see maybe if they made a latch or something where you came in here and, clicked on something, or maybe they could make it somehow where it locks around this top part. Again, it might not be doable. So as long as, again, you've got your hands on them, something in the bucket, gravity's pulling the bucket down, your hands are pulling the handles up, they're probably going to work out just fine. And again, they're only 10 bucks, so not a bad deal. But the bucket grips, based on seeing them on trade shows, that's something that I picked up here recently. So next up on the list are the Titan straps. So I made a post about these asking if any of you had experience with them. I wanted to buy these specifically for my ladder rack to hold my ladders down. Again, I hold them down with an actual lock. I just use straps like these ratchet straps here to keep it from rattling around as much, kind of hold it down tight. And I bought the 4-pack of the 25-inch, and in red. They have 4-packs, 2-packs, all sorts of colors, different lengths and stuff like that. I got the 25-inch. I'm probably a little bit too long, but I also bought them so I could strap material down to my ladders as well if I wanted to. So I ended up getting these for 40 bucks. So that makes them $10 a piece. And again, normally I've been running ratchet straps like these where you just kind of, put your strap through, pull it tight, the teeth grab there. But over time, this starts to fray. I've melted these a bunch of times. They also get this weather. They start to tear and stuff like that. Sometimes whenever I pull real hard, I just pull off a big chunk. So I pretty much have to replace these probably like at least once a year or something like that. Whereas these here say they're UV resistant, freeze resistant, abrasion resistant, multi-use, safer than bungees, all those things. There's the back of the box right there if you want to check that out. They are made in China. You can see that there. And again, they've got lots of uses for this, whether you want to wrap up materials, all those kinds of things like that. I bought it specifically for my ladder rack, and essentially it works like this. There is the Titan Straps logo. It says you always want that facing out, and it's a little bit not intuitive whenever you first get it, because it's kind of the opposite. If you were to wear this like a belt, you'd think it would go like this, and then you'd put your belt through there, put that through your hole, but that's not how it works at all. That would end up pulling out eventually and pulling loose. It's intended to make, it says you need to make sure this logo is always facing out, but essentially you pull this through and then you pull this back and pull it through there. And then as that tension's on there, that won't pull back out right there. So basically you always got to strap it around something, because right here it even feels loose. Whenever I just got it out of the box, I thought, well, this doesn't seem like to me that's going to hold stuff very tight. But as you cinch something down, you're going to be pulling it and stretching this, getting to a hole where that upward pressure is always going to be put on that. I'll show it to you here as I'm putting it onto my ladder. I've got it strapped around the ladder. I'm going to cinch it tight, get it to hold tight. The ladder's not going to move. You know, they work really well in my opinion. I'm pretty happy with them all in all. Again, I got 4 of them, 2 to put on each one of my ladders. That's going to carry me over with that. And again, time's going to tell on this. I don't really know how all this is going to work out. I know that this doesn't last me very long. These aren't as expensive, obviously, but if these work well and they're going to last me a really long time, $10 a piece isn't too bad. And then also I can use these for materials and stuff like that if I want to use them for that as well. Again, that's why I got the little bit longer ones, so that if I want to put some trim on top of my ladder, I can strap this around my ladder and that trim, cinch it all down at one time. So that's why I ended up getting the 25-inch ones. But the Titan straps, the Fire Hose Red, or Fire Red, I think is what they're called, something else that I picked up here recently. So next we'll get into the final 3 tools of this haul, and they were all bought for a specific job, or really anytime I do this job in the future, but I bought them for a job that I had going on, installing some baseboard, and I'll show you all 3 of these in action after I talk about them. First thing that I picked up was the Pro Sensor X700. This is a Franklin sensor stud finder made in the USA with global components. I picked this one up at Lowe's. I think that might be the only place where you can get this one. And this one only runs you $22, which is fairly cheap for one of these Franklin sensor stud finders. I already had one. I can't remember what the model number is on this, and I couldn't find it anywhere. The only difference is this one's a little bit bigger, has a little bit more sensors, but essentially they all work the same way. Basically, you can press this button, and then it's going to show you exactly where you have a stud behind that drywall. And the main thing I like about these is it doesn't matter. I can press that button now and just sit there and pick it up and down. I don't have to calibrate it to a wall, anything like that. Well, this X700, the main difference with that is it's a little bit smaller than my original. So you can see the size different there. The reason why that's nice for me is this fits in my pack out drawer a little bit nicer than what this one did, and this is where I keep that at, so I really like that about it. And the other big difference is it's got less sensors, but it also has a green center line that once I get to the center of the stud, that middle one lights up green, so that lets you know that you have the center of the stud exactly right there. You can kind of tell where the center of the stud is on the other ones anyways, because it's just the middle of all those lights. But still, it's just nice to see that green dot, because it's more likely that you're not going to miss that. You know, whenever you're looking at something like that, you'll see right now I'm exactly on the center of that stud looking at that green light. But this stud finder is one of the things that I picked up here recently, and it worked flawlessly. Again, I'll show it to you here in just a minute. Next thing, I asked about this during a live. I was asking if anybody had this, and it is the Halder. Many of you were guessing that. I said I couldn't remember what the name was, but I ordered me a hammer, started with the H. This is the Simplex 40. It's essentially a big cast iron head up here on a wood handle. The thing I like about this is it comes with kind of a hard rubber on one end and a soft rubber on the other, but these are also interchangeable. Like, you can take these out. They sell just heads, all sorts of different things. They got bigger hammers, smaller hammers, but really like this. I bought it specifically to hammer the baseboard into place whenever I'm working with it. With this soft side, it kept me from marring up the baseboard, and if I accidentally hit the drywall a little bit, didn't mess that up either. Again, I'll show it to you here in just a minute. And then the last thing I picked up was the Milwaukee 15 gauge nailer. Model number on this one is 2839-20. Maybe I can get that in the screen and make that show up. But I have the 18 gauge. I also have the 18 gauge M12. But I had a Hitachi, you know, you can call it a Hitachi / Metabo 16 gauge. Really like it. It worked well, and Lowe's had it for deal of the day for $198, and I thought, man, that is a really good deal for a 15 gauge nailer. It also came with a 2 amp hour battery, a case, a charger, all those things. So I went ahead and ordered it, but unfortunately, whenever I got it, and I shot nails out of it. They were all proud, like by a bunch, like a ½ inch or something like that. So I called Metabo's customer service. They were super nice, and he said, you just need to take that back to the store. They didn't charge it correctly at the factory with the air charge. He said, you might as well just go get another one. He said he even recommended trying it out at the store before I left with it, because it was kind of like a common issue. If you had one, you might have several within that one lot, and it might have all went to one store. But I told him, well, unfortunately, I had to order it and ship it to my store. So I ended up just taking it back. And because I was doing big base, I wanted to have a 15 gauge nailer in case I needed to push it down. I wanted it to hold. So I just went over to Milwaukee and paid the sucker price of $329 for this thing. But it's really ultimately the one I wanted. I really like the tip on the Milwaukee a lot better. I can see exactly where I'm nailing more on this one than I could the Metabo, and my buddy had this one. I've shot it before. It was just that $329 price tag. I wasn't really wanting to pay that for it, but shoots super well. Again, I'll show it to you in the video. Also, it's got bump mode. It's got single fire, all those kinds of things. I think I've got some 2.5 inch nails in here. But I mean, it's just like any other Milwaukee nailer. If you've used one, they're all fantastic. They're probably by far the best ones that I've used. The Metabos are still good though. It's just unfortunately that one didn't work, so I ended up going with this one. But let me go ahead and jump into the video of me installing just a little bit of baseboard, showing you these 3 tools in action, and then I'll end the video and we'll just discuss all the tools that we've talked about. So I'm here at my quadplex job. Again, me and my buddy have been project managing and then also doing quite a bit of the work ourselves on this fourplex. Installing base, this is 1x6 base. So cutting a few pieces here on my 10-inch Milwaukee saw. Again, going in here, you'll see here in a minute that I'm going to use basically all 3 of these products that I just talked about. I'm doing the inside of the closet. I've already done quite a bit up to this point. So getting these pieces in, gonna hammer that in using that halter hammer. Again, making sure that I get that tight fit. If I was just use regular hammer, it would mar up this base, so it makes it nice that I can hammer that in. And even hammer down a little bit. Don't have to worry about scuffing up that drywall. And once I get that in place, using the 15 gauge nailer right there, going in basically the corners. There's no need for the stud finder, obviously, on these 2 pieces. Now I got the measurement for the 2 side pieces out there, cutting those. If I remember right, it was 22 3/8. I always keep my cut pieces off to the side, and I write the numbers on there. And I had one piece that was enough to be able to get that piece out of there. Taking those in, again putting them in, trying to get everything to fit tight in these corners, and the customer wanted the butt joints and all that kind of stuff, so that's why I'm doing it that way. Getting that knocked into place, making sure it's nice and tight. I'm gonna nail it off. Then here's where I use that stud finder. You can kind of see there how those lights shine up, and again, the nicest thing about that is you don't have to hold it to the wall the entire time. You can just go on and off the wall as much as you want to. Swap back over to this side. Same process. Nail the 2 edges, and then I'm going to take that stud finder, see if I've got a spot in the middle. Using my nail set to get those corners. That's one thing about the 15 gauge in corners, but it's because I couldn't fit it in there tight. That's why you end up having some nails sticking out. But there you go, guys. There is a quick overview of some of the tools I picked up here recently. Again, the bulk of them are for that baseboard job that I was doing. Did I have to have all of them? Probably not. I didn't really need a new stud finder. I had one, however, it's kind of been iffy on whether or not I can trust it or not. I don't know if I dropped it or something at some point in time. So I'm kind of glad to get this one. It worked flawlessly, and it's a little bit smaller to fit in my pack out drawers. Absolutely love this hammer. It worked great. And then the only thing that I could see possibly failing on it, I mean, everything up here is built like a tank. That wood handle could possibly break, as all wood handles will. And then the 15 gauge nailer, I'm kind of glad that I got the Milwaukee. I like the tip a lot better than the one on the Metabo for sure. But that $198 price tag on that Metabo for the deal of the day was a pretty sweet deal. So this was quite a bit more money, but ultimately I kind of got the one that I wanted. I'm glad to have this one again. I probably don't need it that often, but with that 6-inch base, and I was going to have to push it down to the concrete, I wanted to make sure I had some heavier gauge nails. Titan straps, so far so good. Time will tell if they last longer than my ratchet straps. And then the bucket grips are probably the most disappointing thing in this tool haul. The fact that they don't fit every bucket, and they don't really, fit on super tight either. They're going to be nice if you're just carrying something one place or the other, but if you're going to move around much, tilt it at all, I'd be a little leery of them things coming off there. But for $10, they're probably a nice thing to have. So again, this is my tool haul. Let me know in the comments below if you've got any of these. And then if you do, what's your feedback on them? How well do you like them? Drop that in the comments below so other people can hear your feedback and not just mine. Again, all these are fairly new to me, so this isn't so much a review, just a, hey, maybe you don't know about Titan straps or the Franklin sensor stud finder. I'm just letting you know that they're out there in case it's something that would be useful to you. Hopefully it's helpful in some way. You guys stay safe, have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next video.